Okay, John Burroughs again, ready to do my eighth podcast. This one is going to be called This One is for the Girls. And as you know, I do all my podcasts off the cuff. I end up in a situation where I'm thinking about something and weighing the pros and cons or the justice or injustice of it, whatever the case may be, until eventually I come up with a feeling that I think is as close to right as we're ever going to find. But here it goes. First of all, I'm sure you all recognize the title of the podcast. This one is for the girls. It's a Martina McBride song, which, as you know from my other page, I also am an avid singer. And that song is the one that finally got me to decide to do this podcast. Never wrote a song or did a song like This One's for the Boys, but I think if I was female, I think this one described it pretty well. But anyway, let me tell you why I'm doing this. A couple of reasons. One, we talk about in society today. We talk about all sorts of things like racism and bias and things like that. But if there has ever been any oppressed segment of society throughout history, it has been the female. And once again, I got to refer back to the fact that we are all formed by our cultures and influences and that come into our lives. But as far as I know, and I could be wrong, I don't know of a culture anywhere in the world where the female was considered, I don't want to use the word equal to the male, but the female wasn't considered to be, be equal to the male. Their duties were to be more or less subservient, take care of the household, take care of the kids, wherever that country may be. And the man was in charge and would go out and do the things that he needed to do. And the woman stayed at home and did their duties diligently and waited for the man to come home and give orders, I guess you could say. But women have come a long way in today's world, and I just want to congratulate them for that, because I'm going to give you a couple of examples that have shown me why I think not that women are superior to men in any way, shape, or form, but that women are equal to men and perhaps stronger in a different sense. I don't mean in a physical sense, but an overall sense of intestinal fortitude. The first example I want to give is my mother. My mother was married to my stepdad. I may have mentioned this before, who was in the Merchant Marine, who I hardly got to know until I was 16 years old. He was always away approximately 10 months of the year, and at home once in a while. A long stay at home would be 2 weeks. So she had to raise me and my brother alone in New York City and raise us without a father figure through all those formative years. And we kind of put her through hell. But the amazing thing about her was, or what I'm trying to get across is, society condoned that at that time. But at one time, she was an aspiring and sought-after ballet dancer. She was a legal secretary and could type 110 words per minute. But eventually, over time, she got tired of waiting for my stepfather to come home. She was going stir-crazy. So she went out and got a job and left us at home alone. But of course, by this time, I was like 14 and my brother was like 11 years old. So many parents were doing that at that time. But what my brother and I put her through, and how she handled it and how she loved us and what she went through and came out stronger on the other side, I'll never forget. She was my first example of what a strong woman is. And a strong woman isn't someone that necessarily thinks men are evil. Um, I'll get back to that later. My second example is my present wife. I met her in a very large telecommunications corporation. We were both aspiring to be managers, and she had come from a minority family, and ended up being the first one to graduate from college in her family and also get her master's degree. And today she's a very successful executive. But while we were in the early parts of our relationship, I've always had back problems, but they became enormous at one point, and she was going to school at night, working during the day, raising the kids, and at the same time trying to get her bachelor's degree. And I was going through enormous back pain. Couldn't get an MRI for the life of me. They were like gold back then. But so I ended up in a chair, screaming in pain and just being a total jerk. And she put up with it because she knew I loved her, and she knew I loved our kids, and that she loved the kids also. But the point I'm trying to make is she worked her way up the ranks in that company because of her intestinal fortitude, tenacity, and the willingness or the unwillingness to accept the status quo. In fact, when I look back at my time at that company, I respected a lot of men. I mean, it was a good old boys network. But there were two women in particular that, aside from my wife, that I respected immensely. One, she was the second highest ranking woman in Pacific Bell and was the general manager of our department. And the other was the first highest ranking woman who I had the privilege of meeting at what they call Pacesetter Award luncheons. That is given to, those awards are given to people that go over and above and beyond the call of duty to get things done that benefit not only the company but the employees that work there. And she was incredibly charismatic also. So that's just the examples I had in the early days when women were still not being noticed correctly for what they were doing. Here's kind of the rub in the whole thing. Nowadays, it almost seems like the whole women's movement has become something of an organization like We Don't Need Men, or whatever that case may be. But I'm going to tell you the truth here. Any oppressed segment of society didn't get out of that oppression because they didn't have allies that believed in their cause. And there were many men in the beginning that I know of, and I'm one included, that believed in the cause of a woman should have the right to do and get equal pay for what she wants to do. And if she chose to have a family, she chose to have a family. Now, it's awfully hard for a woman or a man to watch this transition happen, because here's what goes on. There are certain personality traits that are wired into your DNA, and I'll call them your striving instincts. And for a woman, a striving instinct has always been the mother of the family, the caretaker, took care of the cubs, made sure they were fed. And throughout thousands and thousands of years of culture, that has been ingrained into their system and has been part of their wiring. Now, the other thing I want to say about that's honorable for a woman to do that, and in some cases give up her dreams. That is very honorable. And there's also women out there that is their dream. They want to be a housewife, and they want, that's what makes them happy. But regardless of who you want to be, regardless of that, in the end, they women in general have come a long way. But I want to caution people on the whole movement of any sort. I learned a long time ago, and I'm sure you all have or have heard the expression, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So the more, the more, I don't know, dramatic you get about it, or the more like fierce you get about it, or whatever, it starts to put the very people you're trying to convince about the injustice to womanhood, it starts to put them on the defensive. So what I'm saying is, follow your dream, keep doing what you're doing, be who you want to be. It doesn't make a difference. Find the right people in your life that are going to support you in what you do, whether you're a single mom, whether you're married, whether you're working and raising children, no matter what position you're in. Just make sure you don't make it sound so radical that it's like a boxing match, that you're coming at someone so fierce they get in a defensive mode and you might hurt the whole effort. Okay? So once again, I'd just like to say that this one is for the girls. I know hearing this from a man, you might think I'm being insincere, but I'm not. I don't know where it's all going to lead, but I see more women today in positions of power. I see more women today doing artistic things that they were never able to do. In fact, as you know from my other page, I'm an avid singer. Right now, as far as singing goes, I'm not sure about musicianship, but as far as singing goes, I think women are the majority of the best singers in the world. And it's kind of an anthem for them. Anyway, I'm going to sign off here because I could say a lot more, and I'm uncomfortable being a man trying to explain that I cannot step inside your shoes, but I can certainly feel your struggle, and I've had experience with it, and you're on the right track. Just don't let it go off the rails. John Burroughs signing off. Please let me know your comments on this, and once again, subscribe if you get the inclination. Thank you very much.